Welcome back, students, to our continuing journey through the foundations of philosophy. This is your Professor Joe. Today's lecture centers on a pivotal transformation in human history, a shift from explaining the world through mythos to understanding it through logos. This chapter, titled The Period of Philosophy, marks the dawn of rational inquiry, where human beings began to seek truth not in the stories of the gods, but in the structure of nature itself. 1. From mythos to logos, the birth of rational thought. In the ancient world, explanations for the mysteries of life, thunderstorms, harvests, illness, fate, were found in myths. These stories, filled with gods and supernatural interventions, gave comfort, community, and moral guidance. They shaped the worldview of early civilizations from Greece to Egypt, Mesopotamia to Rome. But around the 6th century BCE in ancient Greece, something revolutionary occurred. A small group of thinkers dared to ask if the world could be understood not through divine will, but through reason and observation. This was the beginning of logos, a Greek term meaning reason, word, or principle. These early philosophers turned their gaze from the heavens to the earth, from the gods to nature, from unquestioned belief to critical thinking. This moment marks the birth of philosophy. They asked, what is the world made of? How does change occur? Can the cosmos be explained without divine stories? And with those questions, philosophy was born. The pre-socratics, founders of natural philosophy. Let us begin with Thales of Miletus, often hailed as the first philosopher in Western tradition. Thales proposed a bold idea that the fundamental substance of the universe, the arche, was not a god, but water. He believed all things emerged from water and returned to it. This was revolutionary. For the first time, someone tried to explain the cosmos with a natural substance, not a supernatural force. After Thales came his student, Anaximander, who rejected water and suggested the apeiron, the boundless or infinite, as the origin of all things. This concept was neither divine nor material in the traditional sense. It was the beginning of abstract reasoning. Anaximenes followed, claiming that air was the foundational element. By observing how air becomes wind, clouds, and breath, he believed it could explain the diversity of life and matter. Heraclitus of Ephesus added to this evolving thought by insisting that the universe is in constant flux. He declared, "You cannot step into the same river twice," suggesting that change itself is the only constant. For him, fire represented this ever-living transformation. Then came Parmenides, who argued the opposite, that change is an illusion and reality is one, unchanging eternal being. This tension between flux and permanence became central to later philosophy. Third, more pre-Socratic contributions. Let's take a quick survey of more pre-Socratic thinkers. Pythagoras saw mathematics as the ultimate language of reality, revealing hidden harmonies in nature and the cosmos. Leucippus and Democritus developed atomism, the theory that everything is composed of tiny indivisible particles, atoms that move in the void. Anaxagoras introduced the concept of nous, or cosmic mind, as the force that organized matter. Protagoras, a sophist, claimed man is the measure of all things, shifting the focus from the divine to human subjectivity and perception. These thinkers didn't always agree, but they all shared one vital trait. They looked for natural, rational explanations rather than mythological ones. The significance of the shift: reason, not religion. This period marks a decisive break from faith-based supernatural answers. It's not that myths disappeared overnight, but rather that a new method emerged, a method grounded in rationality, observation, and argument. This was the beginning of philosophizing, trusting what the mind could discover instead of depending entirely on what tradition or religion prescribed. And this shift laid the foundations of science. Think about it. When we use telescopes to study the stars, when we send probes to Mars, when we calculate equations to model disease or climate, those practices rest on a tradition that began when Thales looked at water, not Zeus, to explain life. The pre-Socratic thinkers set humanity on a path that led to astronomy, chemistry, physics, biology, and engineering. The idea that the universe follows knowable laws, that we can study, understand, and even manipulate nature is a gift from this early period of philosophy. B. Why this matters today. We live in a world of unprecedented technological advancement. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, gene editing, renewable energy, space exploration. But none of this would be possible without the intellectual courage of a few ancient thinkers who chose to ask, what if the world runs on principles we can understand? Their method was simple: observe, question, reason. That is philosophy at its core, and that spirit continues today in both science and humanistic thought. Sixth, takeaways and reflections for students. As we close this chapter, here are a few thoughts to reflect upon. The shift from mythos to logos is one of the most important transformations in human history. It teaches us that understanding the world is within our grasp, not just the domain of deities. The pre-Socratics remind us that wisdom starts with observation and curiosity, not just belief. Philosophy is not confined to abstract questions. It is the very engine that powers science, technology, and progress. Our ability to think critically, ask questions, and seek truth through reason is a birthright and a responsibility. And finally, ask yourself, in a world still full of myths, political, cultural, or personal, how can I use logos, reason, and observation to pursue truth? That is your invitation to philosophize. Thank you, and I look forward to exploring the next stages of this journey with you in my next video series.